All right, good morning. This is a re-recording of the Red Rocks information webinar that was originally hosted on Wednesday, August 27th at 5:30 p.m. We did have a bit of a snafu with the original recording, so are offering it again and have hoped to capture most of the questions that were asked last night. If there are any other questions that did arise that were not answered during the presentation, please do not hesitate to reach out. My and my colleagues' emails are shared at the end of this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining. Again, this is the pre-application information session for the Red Rocks Public Art Commission. My name is Megan Defner, and I'm today's presenter as well as the project lead for this commission. All right, so on the agenda, I will share a brief history of the program as well as the public art process. I'll then review the open call as well as project information for Red Rocks. I'll share some things to keep in mind as you prepare for your application, and then I will review some of the questions that were asked last night. There is also an opportunity to do a short demo of applying for a call through the CAFE website, so I will spend a few minutes walking through a short tutorial. So the public art program was established by Mayor Federico Pena through an executive order in 1988, and it was later enacted into law by City Council in 1991. And what the ordinance does is it sets aside 1% of budgeted construction costs on new capital improvement projects that have budgets that are equal to or more than $1 million for the inclusion of new public art. Since the program was established, we have created more than 350 works of art all across the city, including at the airport. And along with those commissions, we have about 100 historic and donated pieces that were grandfathered in when the program started. Since about 1988, we've invested more than $60 million in public art for Denver residents. So each project is site-specific and unique, meaning that it's created in response to the place and community in which it resides. We do not buy artwork off the shelves, nor do we select completed works of art. Every project truly is unique to the site and a one-of-a-kind. We also believe that the artwork should speak to its users. Maybe it interprets the history of the place, the people that live there or did live there, or addresses a social or environmental issue. Ultimately, the artwork we do believe should enhance the site and the user's experience of the site. We do work very hard to ensure that all projects do go through the same public process, which is open, fair, and transparent. And lastly, you'll see on this next slide that we do involve community members on all selection panels, as it provides residents with the opportunity to have impact on their community and the built environment. So here is the list of representatives that we ask to serve on every selection panel. From the outset, we create that panel that it's made up of stakeholders from the community. Panels do have anywhere from 10 to 15 members, although some may have more just depending on complexity of the project. But we do make sure to include representatives from all of those categories that you see listed on the screen. And for Red Rocks, we have a panel that's made up of 11 voting members. So a little bit about the artist selection process. As mentioned, when we inherit a new project, the first step is to create that selection committee that's approved by our Commission on Cultural Affairs. After that approval, we can kick off the project with an orientation meeting and a site visit. And at this meeting, we work with the panel to refine project themes and goals. And then the panel makes decisions about things like where the artwork should go, what types of materials are appropriate, who is eligible to apply, etc. I take all of that information from the orientation meeting and draft it into a request for qualifications, and then we advertise the call through the call for entry website. We also list it on our website and share it to our social media channels. Artists typically have 4 weeks to apply, and so this is the stage that we're at right now. After that RFQ closes, the selection committee will work to score those applications first individually. Then we will meet as a group to narrow down those remaining artists to a short list of finalists who will be invited to create site-specific proposals. Those finalists will present their concepts to the selection panel, and the panel will deliberate to make a recommendation, after which we do seek several internal approvals through our 2 governing bodies, as well as official sign-off by our executive director. Once all those approvals are completed, we then can work with the artist to get them under contract. Please do keep in mind that this is a request for qualifications, not a request for proposals. So we are looking for artists to demonstrate their interest in the project through a statement of interest, highlight their experience in a resume, and submit 6 to 8 work samples that provide a sense of your style and aesthetic. So we are not looking for proposals at this stage. So this is quickly our approval process at a glance. As mentioned, once recruitment for the panel is finalized, we do take that committee to the Denver Commission on Cultural Affairs for approval. And then after we do have that approval, we can kick off the project, and the panel works through the selection process to the very end until they made a recommendation on a concept and artist. Our 2 governing bodies that review the project are our Public Art Committee, that is a technical advisory group, as well as the Denver Commission on Cultural Affairs, which is a mayoral appointed body. Once approved by those 2 groups, then a formal letter is sent to the executive director for Denver Arts and Venues, after which we can work with the artists to get them under contract, and then working through design, fabrication, and installation. So elements that do not qualify as public art include anything prefabricated or that can be bought off the shelf. This includes things like signage, wayfinding, or advertising signage obviously will not qualify, nor do mass-produced objects like bike racks or benches. Reproductions of originals also makes this list, as does landscaping, except when those elements are designed by an artist and a major part of the artwork. The image on the right there is an example of artwork that's integrated into wayfinding signage. We commissioned a series of bronze sculptures along 14th Street in downtown Denver. And while that large wayfinding sign you see is not considered art, the bronze sculpture that's attached to it does qualify. So if the elements are an original work of art designed by an artist, it would count as public art. So on the flip side, there's a long list of what we do consider to be public art. The easy answer is just about anything. This includes sculpture in all mediums, paintings, photography, light and sound art, craft art like fiber and textiles, and even earthworks. Please do pay attention to this RFQ and any RFQ issued by the Public Art Program here in Denver, as the acceptable mediums or media is always included in the call. Right, so in order to apply for this call, there are 3 basic requirements. The first is a statement of interest that speaks to the elements in the RFQ. The second is to upload a resume that details your experience. And lastly, we ask interested artists to submit 6 to 8 images of work samples. Again, as a friendly reminder, RFQs solicit the qualifications of the artist, a team, or a collective. This is not a request for specific proposals. So for your statement of interest, please pay attention to the prompts in the RFQ. Your statement is limited to 2,000 characters, and for this project, we are asking applicants to respond to the following: why Red Rocks is of particular interest to you, your design approach and previous experience working on public art, and information on your experience working with diverse communities. If you are new to public art, we recognize that you may not be able to share projects that highlight your experience. That is okay, as long as you can provide examples that show your style and aesthetic. You'll also want to speak to your experience in your statement of interest and your ability to put together a team that can help you realize your vision. The committee does review the entire application, including that statement of interest, and I have found in the past that if an artist takes the time to tailor the answers to the call, instead of providing a more generalized statement, there is a much higher chance that the application will resonate with the committee and advance to the next round. So for your resume, please submit a 1 to 2 page document that highlights your professional accomplishments. Pay attention to the instructions and name your file size accordingly. We will not download any resumes that are longer than 2 pages unless it's of a team or a collective. And so if you are applying as a team or collective, please keep your resume to no more than 1 page per team member and submit it as one document. So as mentioned, an artist can submit a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 8 digital images of previously completed artworks. If you have completed projects that align with the goals of the RFQ for this project, it would benefit you to include those as examples. There is also an opportunity to upload one video file. If you do choose to include this video, please do follow the instructions in the RFQ and add it as the last file. Please do not make this your first media submittal. Additionally, as you're deciding on what work samples to include, consider things like the quality of the images you submit. Things like smaller file sizes, pixelated images, poor lighting, and wide shot images are very difficult for the panelists to see. And please note that any samples of artwork that you choose to include do not need to be of previous public art commissions. Right, so here are 2 quick examples of images that do and do not work well. The image on the left is engaging because it captures a person interacting with the artwork. However, it is somewhat difficult to see what the artwork it exactly is. So an image like this could be very difficult for the committee to decipher. A close-up that would show more detail of the material choice, how folks can interact with this would be much more advisable. The image on the right is a better example of the types of imagery that we like to see, as it does give a clear sense of the scale, it fills the entire frame, and it has proper lighting. Okay, so let's get into the specifics for Red Rocks. Again, the budget for this commission is $235,000, and the deadline to apply is September 8th at midnight in Mountain Standard Time. Just a quick note, we will not accept late or incomplete applications. So for those who may not be familiar, Red Rocks is located at the base of the foothills near the town of Morrison. It is actually outside of the boundaries of the city and county of Denver, and it is one of over 40 parcels of land that's owned by the city as part of the mountain park system that was developed between 1912 and 1941. A little history about the site. As mentioned, it's outside of the county line. It's a long way from Denver, near foothills and located in the foothills, or excuse me, near the town of Morrison, located in the foothills. Geologically speaking, it is very old. The iconic rock formations were formed over 125 million years ago. It's important to note that long before the park was known as the Public Park of Red Rocks, Garden of the Angels, or Garden of the Titans, it was the ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute peoples. And today there are 48 contemporary tribes that have historic ties to the land that we know as Colorado. In the early 20th century, the land was purchased and developed as a recreational park. There were picnicking and hiking opportunities. There was also a funicular railway that ran to the top of Mount Morrison, the scar of which can still be seen today. In 1928, the city bought the land in hopes of creating a public amenity. They worked to complete the 5-mile interior scenic road system in 1930. And in 1933, the Civilian Conservation Corps set up the tent settlement just south of Red Rocks in anticipation of major construction. In 1936, then Mayor Spear and head of parks George Cranmer received approval from the U.S. Secretary of the Interior to use the Civilian Conservation Corps to build the amphitheater. An interesting fact, George Cranmer is responsible for the spelling of amphitheater. He insisted that Denver use the official English spelling. And what was supposed to be a 2-year project actually took 5. The seating areas were constructed with 90,000 square feet of sandstone. The amphitheater was built with 800 tons of quarried stone and 30,000 pounds of reinforced steel. The material costs at the time were $115,000, and the labor cost amounted to $350,000. For more information, you can visit the Red Rocks website for additional history on the site. So quickly, the projects that helped to fund the public art budget include the stage roof replacement. The original roof was built in the 1980s and was replaced with a new roof that complements the amphitheater's natural design. It also has a higher load capacity, improved safety features, and provides more shelter for artists and stagehands. Also, the south ramp was rebuilt and it meets modern structural standards while also respecting the original structure's aesthetic. Additionally, we made accessibility improvements at the top of the plaza as well as to row 1. These were both modified to make the amphitheater more accessible for wheelchair users. And lastly, there were enhancements to the visitor center, including at Shiprock Grill and Kitchen that was renovated, as were the north restrooms. Okay, so these are the goals that were refined by the selection committee and will be used to assess the applications and ultimately select a concept from the finalists. So I will read these from the screen. Red Rocks is one of the most celebrated amphitheaters in the world, and the panel is interested in artwork that creatively explores the historic, cultural, and natural resources of the park. Artworks must be appropriate and unique to the park and amphitheater and complement the natural surroundings. Artworks must adhere to the guidelines developed for the inclusion of public art at Red Rocks. The guidelines include 7 essential elements to consider and are included as an attachment to this RFQ. The guidelines are also included on our website. They are embedded within the RFQ, and you can just click on that link to learn more. The next goal is that artists are encouraged to explore ways to make the artwork accessible. While 2 of the 3 locations do not provide opportunities to touch the artwork, the panel is interested in creative ways to make the artwork as accessible to the diverse community that utilizes it for recreational and concert-going activities. And lastly, artists are encouraged to use biophilic design strategies that support overall well-being through color, pattern, and subject matter. Biophilic design is the practice of connecting people and nature within our built environments and communities. Also within the RFQ, we've included a resource guide with helpful information on biophilic design principles. Right, in terms of the site, the selection panel has chosen 3 possible areas where the artwork could be located. These are all transitional areas of the park, adjacent to man-made structures or pathways. Artwork will not be placed inside buildings, or there will be minimal to no attachment to the exterior of buildings or other structures. Just to note, artwork should not compete with natural or historic views, and there are strict rules limiting off-trail use, so any artwork located in the areas that you'll see here shortly should not encourage visitors to approach the artwork. Once selected as a finalist, artists will have the opportunity to select at least 2 sites for public art. Finalists will then be asked to submit conceptual drawings for at least 2 of the 3 preferred locations, and you'll be designing to a budget of $235,000 per location. In terms of media and materials, the panel is open to artwork and media and materials that complement the natural surroundings of the park and the architecture of the amphitheater. These include, but are not limited to, stone, rock, metal, wood, etc. Natural color palettes and patina of materials is encouraged. And just to reiterate or to place some emphasis on, this artwork will be outside, so durability and safety are major factors when considering media and materials. So this is the first location. It's inside the amphitheater behind stage left. The red boxes in each image denote the area in which artwork could be sited. The picture on the far right shows the existing condition. It's currently home to a beautiful yellow bollard and black trash can. However, this space gets a lot of traffic on concert days. It's a highly visible location with hundreds of people passing by. We have coordinated with the Landmark Preservation Office, and they have shared that any artwork that is potentially sited in this location should be primarily grounded with minimal attachment to the historic structure, as well as the concrete triangular structure that you see here above. This is the second location, just south of the historic Trading Post building. The location is behind the wooden fencing in this natural area. This is a second vantage point of that same area. There is a trail that is close to this space. You cannot see it in this image, but artwork sited here cannot encourage off-trail use in the park. And the third location is south of the amphitheater and Trading Post. It is located between 2 parking lots. There's ample grassy space to work with on either side of the staircase that you see in this image. And potentially a series of artworks in this location could work well. Here's another advantage of that same location. And just to note, all 3 locations that the panel has selected are highly visible to park users and concert goers. So these are 3 examples of art that already exist in the park. The 2 on the left are part of a series called Connecting Points by Andrew Dufford. These are great examples of functional and biophilic art, and they were created in 2020. While this call is not specifically looking for functional art, I think it's still important to share these sculptures to highlight the type of artwork and materials that are appropriate at Red Rocks. The image on the right is of Tyler Aiello's Leaves of Grass, which was installed in 2009. It consists of a grouping of sculptures that are inspired by the blades of prairie grass and yucca leaves that are native to the park. Aiello's artwork is an elegant and a harmonious addition to the landscape, and it's an excellent example of how artwork can be integrated harmoniously and in a complementary fashion. So I'm not going to spend too much time on these 2 slides other than to share that in the mid-90s, a master plan was developed to define long-term approach for the management of the park and to help identify appropriate types and level of use. As a part of that planning effort, a baseline natural inventory was created to help drive decision-making. And within that inventory, the park's visual resources were included and several primary and significant views were identified. And just to note that none of the potential locations that were selected by the panel will impact primary or significant views. Along with visual resources, that master plan also included an inventory of the park's historic, cultural, and archaeologic, as well as soils and geology and biological resources. And we have taken care to not select any locations that might have impacts on any natural resources in the park. Most locations, actually all locations, are in areas of previous impact and development. Red Rocks was designated as a Denver landmark in 1973. This came 42 years before it was placed on the National Historic Register and designated by the National Park Service. And this map just shows you the boundary of the Denver landmark. So any sites that are selected within the red box will require a review through the Landmark Preservation Office to ensure that we're not negatively impacting any of the characteristics that led to the designation. We do know for sure that location number 1 within the amphitheater will require review by Landmark Preservation. It's possible that location number 2 will also require Landmark Preservation review, but location number 3 is outside of the boundaries, so will not require a review. In late 2023 and into 2024, we worked in consultation with the Friends of Red Rocks to develop the Red Rocks Public Art Guidelines. These help provide guidance for the inclusion of public art at the park. These guidelines were built upon previous guiding documents, including that 95 master plan. And the following 7 elements must be adhered to when creating concepts for the park and amphitheater. As mentioned, these guidelines are available as a link within the RFQ on our website. They should also be available as a link through CAFE. So the first guideline is the environmental impact. The impact to the natural environment must be a priority. Red Rocks is known for its stunning natural landscape and geological formations. Public art must be designed and located to minimize disruption to the natural environment, including flora, fauna, and geological features. Number 2, cultural and historical sensitivity. There is significant cultural and historical value, which includes its importance to Indigenous peoples, its conception as a Depression-era public works project, and its history as a renowned performance venue. Art should respect and reflect the origins and heritage. Number 3, visual integration. The art must complement, not detract from, the natural beauty of the park. This means considering things like scale, color, and form, to ensure the artworks harmonize with the surroundings. The art locations should complement the park's natural features, avoid disruption to the landscape, and align with conservation principles. Number 4 is weather and durability. Artwork in Colorado does endure extreme weather conditions, including sun exposure, temperature variations, and snow. So any artwork must be made of durable materials that do not require frequent maintenance. Number 5, we strive to provide artwork that presents a broad range of experiences to a broad range of people, which means considering factors like structural stability, materials used, and ease of access. Number 6, artwork should not impede on the recreational or educational use of the park, which includes maintaining clear paths, preserving viewpoints, and ensuring the art does not overcrowd or over-commercialize the space. And last, number 7, is inspiration from local ecology. The park's natural features serve as an obvious choice of inspiration. Artists should be encouraged to create pieces that reflect and celebrate the area's natural beauty and environmental significance. All right, as one of the goals that also ties into the guidelines, let's discuss biophilic design, as I think it does marry very well with this project. So biophilia, for anyone who is unfamiliar, is humankind's innate biological connection with nature. There is a wealth of research that shows how our connection to nature through artwork can reduce stress, anxiety, depression, and cortisol levels, and it does help to improve our mood, our self-esteem, and blood pressure. There are strategies that artists can use to incorporate biophilic design principles into their proposals, and some of those strategies include using curved lines, shaped and natural angles, incorporating local ecology and materials, integrating patterns that feel engaging but not overwhelming, or patterns that mimic patterns found in nature, like the Fibonacci sequence. Also creating a connection to natural systems. On our website, within the RFQ, I believe I mentioned this, that we have provided a link to a helpful resource guide on biophilic design principles. All right, so a few things to keep in mind as you're developing your application. Please read the RFQ carefully and follow the instructions. As mentioned, incomplete applications or applications that are late will not be reviewed. Artists have been disqualified for not providing all information requested or for applying for calls where they did not meet the requirements. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to me directly. Also, make sure to include photos of your previous work samples and ensure those photos are clear and have a high resolution. Include a strong statement of interest and explain why you're interested in this project in particular. Again, read the RFQ carefully and respond to the prompts that are asked. It's important to reiterate the importance of not getting hung up on creating a concept at this stage. If you do choose to apply, we are not looking for proposals. This is your opportunity to create a strong application that demonstrates that you've read the RFQ and are responding to it. We're only asking for images of your qualifications, your resume, and your statement of interest to determine if you would be a good fit for the project. If you do have an idea, it will not preclude you from applying or disqualify you from applying. But at this stage, it's more important to focus on creating a strong application that resonates with a panel and gets you to the next stage of consideration. And lastly, apply early. It's Murphy's Law that if you wait until the 11th hour, something is bound to go wrong. Give yourself plenty of time so that if you do run into an issue, you can reach out to me or my colleague to troubleshoot, and we can troubleshoot together. And unfortunately, again, as mentioned, late entries will not be accepted. I will be out of town next week from September 1st through the 5th without access to email. So if you do have a question, my colleague Meg Purcell will be available and her information will be shared on the next slide. All right, so here are our websites for finding calls. I've included the URL for the Red Rocks RFQ on our website, as well as call for entry. You can also find those helpful resource guides on biophilic design principles, as well as the guidelines for public art on our website. If any questions do come up this week, please reach out. However, the city will be closed on Friday due to a mandatory furlough day, so please contact me by Thursday at the latest. And for any inquiries next week, please contact my colleague, Meg Purcell. Her email is listed there on the screen. Questions can be directed to either Meg or I, and now we will go ahead and answer the questions that were asked last night. Right, so one of the first questions was about lighting and whether or not lighting was appropriate in any of the locations. Yes, lighting in locations number 2 and number 3 may be appropriate. Tyler Aiello's piece that I showed earlier is uplit, and we think that we could consider similar lighting in the other 2 locations. Lighting in the amphitheater, however, is likely less appropriate. It's a tighter space with more constraints, and there's ample ambient lighting in the area. There was another question about the lighting and whether or not the cost was the responsibility of the artist. Yes, the budget is inclusive of all elements that are needed to design, fabricate, and install the artwork. Additionally, any travel to and from the site, including shipping of the artwork, must be covered by the budget. There was another question about whether or not a local in-house team can provide installation services. Unfortunately, we do not have this service to provide to artists. The artist is responsible for subcontracting with an installation company if they do not possess the necessary skill set. We do have an artist resource guide that lists local fabricators and installers that artists have worked with in the past. So once finalists are selected for this project, we will provide that resource list. There was another question about whether or not engineered drawings would be required, structural engineered drawings. Yes, as part of your contract milestones, we ask artists to meet preliminary and final design, and as part of the final design benchmark, stamped engineered drawings by a licensed Colorado engineer are required. There was another question about any obstacles with creating artwork that goes above the staircase in location number 3. Artwork in this location cannot impede the sidewalk, and there is a sidewalk that exists both below and above that staircase. So if an artist is considering something like an archway, as long as it spans the width of the sidewalk and the footers are sited outside of the sidewalk in the grassy area, I think something like this could work. There also was a question about whether or not a team member from out of state could join a local team and if they're allowed to apply. Yes, this is a national call, so it is open to anyone residing in the United States. There was also a question about asking for more information about this specific selection committee and their desires for the project. So for this committee, we do have 3 community representatives. We have 1 artist, 2 arts professionals, 1 member from our technical advisory group, the Public Art Committee, 1 member from our Commission on Cultural Affairs, and because Red Rocks is outside of the city limits, we did ask one of our at-large city council members to serve. And lastly, we also have representation from Denver Mountain Parks. Much of the conversation at the orientation meeting centered around Red Rocks' significance. It is a unique and a very special place. And most of the dialogue was that the artwork should honor the site and not detract from the natural beauty, the historic significance, or cultural importance. The RFQ, the goals and the guidelines for public art are your best resources for understanding the panel's desire for what's appropriate and will work well in the park. So if you are at a loss at any time, please refer back to the goals in the RFQ and those guidelines for public art at Red Rocks. All right, I think that's most of the questions that were asked during the webinar. If there are any other questions, feel free to reach out. And now we'll quickly move into a quick tutorial on Cafe. All right, so creating an account is easy and it's free to register. The website URL is there on your screen. It's callforentry.org. This is the landing page. Once you type in that URL, you'll hover over login and see 2 options. So click on artist login. It will take you to the login page. At the bottom there, you will select sign up for free. On the next page, you'll be asked to accept the terms and conditions, and then you'll be prompted to create a profile. Once your profile is created, you can start to apply for open calls, but you'll first need to upload work samples that you can use across applications. Once your media is uploaded, then you can start applying and checking out to submit your application. So the first step is uploading images of your past work. You can upload up to 100 images to your account, and then you can select specific images to add to each application. So you'll click on Upload Media to begin. The only accepted file types are .jpeg or .jpg. Also note that the dimensions of each picture must be 1200 pixels or greater on the longest side, and all images must be under 5 megabytes. Please include all the requested information that you see on this screen, including things like the dimensions, the description of the artwork, and the type of media that was used. This is important information that's also available to the selection panel as they're reviewing and scoring your application. So please fill it out and make all of those sections complete. As mentioned, you can upload up to 100 images. Once you're done, select Add to My Portfolio. So once you've uploaded your media, select Apply to Calls at the top of the web page to start applying. You can search by the call's name, so for example, Red Rocks, or you can search by our organization, Denver Public Art. When you found the call, you can click on More Info to read the RFQs to make sure that you're eligible to apply, or select Apply Now to start your application. Once you do, you'll be directed to this screen where you'll be asked to respond to the statement of interest, add your resume, and select your work samples. We also require applicants to fill out a demographic survey. We use this data internally and in aggregate only, so you'll be asked to confirm that you filled it out. And then once you've selected your media, hit Save Application at the bottom of the page. After you've completed everything on the previous screen, you'll select Proceed to Checkout. Calls that are advertised by our program are always free to apply, so if you do see a cost here on this screen, reach out to me immediately, as it should always be free to apply. You'll then select Proceed to Checkout. You'll review the information on the following page and then select Submit Entry. And that's it. You've just completed an application on Cafe. All right, that's all that we have for you today. I want to thank you for viewing this webinar. Again, if you have any questions next week, during the week of Labor Day, please reach out to my colleague Meg Purcell at meg.purcell@denvergov.org. Thank you for your time tonight, and if you choose to submit an application, good luck.